We haven't talked about victory points, which is a which is what you're fighting for. So victory points on the in 1v1s you'll on 1v1 maps you'll have 3 victory points. So this is how you one of the ways you win the game. Basically, you can win the game in two. Well, you can win the game in 3 ways. I'll explain the third one. But the first one you'll want to know is victory points. So if I look at the tactical map here, you have one here, you have one in the middle, and one in the south. So it's a bit like flags in Battlefield. If you compare, if you want to compare it to that. So if you control more victory points than your opponent, he'll start draining victory points. So each player starts with 500 at the beginning of the game, and the more you control, the more your opponent will lose points during that time. So if you capture all victory points, your opponent's points will go down really fast. So you want to avoid that. Now that being said, at the beginning of the game, you probably don't want to concentrate too much on having the victory points. What you want to do at the beginning of the game is make sure you have map control, meaning have a lot of the controlling a lot of the points here. Make sure your fuel and ammo points are connected to your base, like we explained at the beginning of the stream, and then worry about the victory points later. Obviously, if your opponent has all 3 victory points, you want to try to avoid that. So if at the beginning of the game your opponent goes for all 3 victory points, try to at least capture one, so you don't get the victory points drained that much. The victory points also work with a capping circle, a capping area like this, like as the other points, and they do not give any resources. Anything you want to add, IPK?
No, nothing. I think just to demonstrate how the tick down works. Do you want if you cap the mid VP?
Yep.
Because and then they can see the tick down. So if you just cap that.
So right now there's one neutral, so that means no one captured that point. It doesn't belong to anyone. And IPK has one in red, and I have one in blue.
It will be our territory. Claiming territory.
So yeah, Zero's just going to cap the middle one, and then when he caps it, you should see my points, which are in red, and you should see them slowly tick down in the UI across the top bar.
While that's happening, I'll just explain, maybe add something concerning the cover. So a cool thing about Company of Heroes is since the first one is the whole map is there's a lot of destructions that can happen, and it's dynamic. So these walls here, they can be destroyed by artillery, mortar fire, tanks. This wreckage here as well, and all that can be destroyed. And once it's destroyed, it cannot be used anymore as cover. But at the opposite end, sometimes you'll destroy one of your enemy's tank, and you'll get a wreckage like this on the field, and you can then use that wreckage as cover. So it's really the battlefield is really dynamic. The houses can get destroyed, and if your units are inside, once they get destroyed, you lose all that whole squad. So you have a health bar also for the houses. So if it's really low on health and it's getting mortar barrage or artillery, get out of there, because you'll lose all your units that are in that house. So as you can see now, like IPK was saying, I have 2 of the victory points, and he has 1 of them. So you can see now that his points are started to drain on his side.
Yeah. So I'll just if I cap the middle one back again, then you should. Well, I'll just neutral it. I'll just white the point, so to speak. So when I white it, you should see the countdown stop.
I'll just look at if there's any questions in the chat in the meantime.
Yeah, sure. I mean, victory points, they're not too. I don't think they're too complicated. One thing as well is that maybe you wouldn't want to cap them straight away at the beginning because it also gives away your position.
That's true.
Because as soon as you cap a VP, it flashes up on the mini map.
Right here.
But
so
yeah. So I mean, if you think like, this German player, he's gonna have a machine gun and I want to flank it, you don't want to cap any MGs so it doesn't reveal where your conscripts are. Hopefully you don't get found out and then you can successfully pull off a flank on a machine gun or an entrenched position.
good point. So as you see here, like you can see on the mini map, there's fog of war even on the mini map, but you see that the victory point is red, so you know that your enemy captured that one. So if you go at the beginning of the game and capture that victory point, you know that your enemy's there with a certain unit, like IpKaiFung said. We'll go and talk a bit about how the combat works, or the unit management works. So like I was saying a bit earlier, you don't control individual units. You control a squadron. That's not true for tanks, but if you compare again with Command and Conquer, this squad is formed of 4 individual independent models. And like I was explaining earlier also with cover, if one is out of cover and the 3 others are in cover, well, the 3 that are in cover will get the bonus from the cover and the one out of cover will not. Now, an important mechanic in the game is retreating, as you may have seen us do earlier. One thing you don't want to do is lose your whole squadron. So maybe we can fight at the middle. You have a unit at the middle of the map, IPK? Yeah. Okay. So we'll just we'll show you how that works. So the reason why you don't want to lose your whole squad is because it costs a lot less to reinforce your squad than to build a whole new one. That's one reason. The second reason is veterans tree, which I'll explain a bit later. While this fight is going on, I'll just add another comment concerning the ways you can win the game. Later in the game, if you have some tanks and you have a pretty good control of your enemy's base and wipe it out. If your enemy's base is cleared out, the game is over. So that's one thing you want to avoid. And the third way is if your opponent rage quits, so or drops. But really, there's only 2 ways of winning: is either by the victory points draining to 0. Your opponent's victory points draining to 0, or destroying your enemy's base.
I'd just like to point out, this fight going on in the middle. The grenadiers that died the quickest were actually the ones that weren't in the green cover, but are actually standing on the red cover on the road.
Exactly.
Just to let you know, and notice how these 2 guys that are actually in the green
surviving
cover, these 2 grenadiers, they've been there a hell of a long time.
So. I'll just get into, just move towards you, and you'll see now, I don't want to lose this squad, so I'm going to retreat it. So what it does, it retreats to your home base, and maybe IPK, I'll let you continue a bit on retreating, what it does when your unit retreats, and what you want to try to do when you see your opponent retreating.
Yeah, so retreating makes your unit run a bit quicker towards your home base. I can't exactly remember the bonuses it gives. It's not the same as COH1. I think it's not as good. I believe it's more increased armor, so then you have a lower chance of taking damage. But if for example in that fight in the middle, if I had had my conscript facing that grenadier, what I could have done is move another conscript in position behind the grenadier, so when he retreats, I can try and kill him while he's retreating. So maybe a little example, when we were doing this fight right here in the middle, I had a unit right here, and his conscript was here. So if he saw that he was winning the fight and he had a conscript maybe in this area, a good thing would have been to move this conscript here towards here, because this is where the path it's probably my unit is going to take to retreat. So it's going to be low on health,
and low on the amount of infantries in the squad. So he's gonna try and wipe it out. So if you see here, you have a button to reinforce your squad. It costs 30 to reinforce your squad. So if you do 35 times 4 units, well, obviously you won't be reinforcing 4 units, but you'll be reinforcing 3 of them for a total of 4, maximum of 4 for your grenadiers. Well, that adds up. Even if you do the whole squad, just to compare to a new one costs 240 manpower. And if you would reinforce all 4 units, so that's 4 times 30, so that's 120 manpower. So it's half the cost to reinforce units than to build a new one. That's one reason you don't want to lose a whole squad. You want to retreat when you think you're going to be losing that fight, or when that you think you might lose the whole